I believe that when a person is born, the world is their oyster. Babies are malleable. You can raise a kid to be almost anything. A baby from an abusive family in the most dangerous ghetto can be raised to achieve great things in the cutting-edge fields of their day. But unfortunately, this is most often not what happens. For every success story, there are countless others who fall by the wayside and fail to escape the vicious cycle, filling the world with more of the same hatred and anger imposed upon them by their family and community. It's hard to blame someone for their actions when they've been beaten down by everyone around them for their entire life. Jahseh Onfroy was a rapper that went by the name XXXTentacion, or X for short. He was born in 1998 in the small city of Plantation, Florida. X's life was marked by danger and violence from a young age. He was raised mainly by his grandmother, due largely to his mother's financial situation, and was often bounced back and forth between the two of them. One of the most famous anecdotes from X's early life recounts the time he tried to stab a man who was bothering his mother at the age of 6. This disturbing occurrence was not an isolated incident. X was kicked out of his school choir after attacking another child, and was later expelled from middle school for fighting. It was during these years that he was inspired by his favorite nu metal and hard rock bands to learn piano and guitar. X dropped out of high school in the 10th grade, and it was around this time that he was sent to a juvenile detention center for armed robbery. It was there that he met close friend and longtime collaborator Ski Mask the Slump God. After their release, they decided to get clean and pursue careers in music. X's first track, uploaded to SoundCloud in 2014, was called Vice City. It blew up immediately and inspired him to create more music, along the way developing his style that was simultaneously meditative and apocalyptically angry. X and his friends pioneered the now ubiquitous SoundCloud aesthetic.
They ask me what is happiness, you write it on the check, or you feel it on the sweat when your dick is in the breast, huh?
Try me, my fight, fist, fuck, all sirens, heavy, fat, diet, pop.
X's time in the spotlight was marred by crime from the beginning to the end. In 2016, not long after he was able to finally quit his job as a call center operator and do music full-time, he was arrested and charged with robbery and assault with a deadly weapon. Not long after posting bail, he was once again arrested and charged with false imprisonment, witness tampering, and aggravated battery of a pregnant victim, in a controversy that remained unresolved until the day he died. I think you get the idea. There's a laundry list of reasons why X was a bad person. Footage of him beating innocent people exists all over the internet. Many people chose to boycott his music over the alleged abuse of his girlfriend, and even Spotify briefly removed him from their company-made playlists. Jahseh was a bad person. I won't deny it. He hurt a lot of people, and whether or not it was because other people hurt him does nothing to excuse his actions. But the point of this video is that he was a brilliant and influential artist who didn't deserve to die. During his time as an artist, X provided millions of kids with catharsis through his music. His songs were some of the darkest and most violent to ever reach mainstream popularity. Everyone who hears them knows immediately that his music comes from a place of extreme pain. The most common themes in X's music are suicide, violence, and depression. The heavy distortion of his beats and vocals reflects his personality and past. Jahseh was so well acquainted with tragedy and violence that he would often talk about his own death and how he hoped to leave behind a positive legacy for his fans and family. Jahseh Onfroy was 20 years old when he was shot to death in Deerfield Beach, Florida, outside a motorcycle shop. Just 3 months before his death, he had excitedly announced that he was getting a GED and going to college.
I never thought I would ever say this, but I'm excited to go to college. I will do better than those before me. I will surpass all of you! I'm going to college!
On the day of his death, he announced a charity event planned for the next weekend in his home state. It's easy to call yourself the good guy and celebrate the violent death of a young man who did awful things, but still had a lifetime to redeem himself. Life is sacred, all of it. To know that the hip-hop community is still facing the same problems that it was 22 years ago when Tupac and Biggie were gunned down in the street is horrific. The author Seth Adam Smith wrote that one human life is worth more than all the treasures of the earth. As we see time and time again, we live in a world where that invaluable message is obscured by a common desire for wealth and status. Celebrating the murder of another person is the worst perspective to take in the wake of X's death. To laugh at the dead body of a youth is a truly distorted crime against humanity. The singer and rapper Jidenna wrote this: No one can be so self-righteous that they are happy when a youth dies. The young still have the capability to reform. For those who are so woke that their compassion is asleep, remember this. If Malcolm X was killed at the age of 20, he would have died an abuser, a thief, an addict, and a narrow-minded, depressed, and violent criminal. For the record, I was never in support of his ways, especially his domestic abuse, which I found to be horrific. But I will never demonize an individual without criticizing the society and circumstance in which they were raised, especially someone under 21. We don't know how we would turn out if placed in X's circumstances. An overwhelming majority of people would end up no better than X, and I'm sure that most of us would end up even worse than him. He wasn't innocent, and we can't martyr him, but no one deserves to be shot dead at 20 years old and die by themselves in their car while strangers film it for Snapchat. X will be remembered for the cold, stark beauty of his music. He'll be remembered for those he helped heal with his art. Life doesn't adhere to a movie-like narrative as much as we want to force it to make sense. Bad people do good things, and good people do bad things. Compassion and thoughtfulness are necessary for positive change. I'm sorry for Jose's victims, and I'm sorry for Jose. Nothing good comes out of violence. This has been Volksgeist. Thank you for watching.